The California drought.
We're in an extreme drought. It's the third driest year in 105 years. We are overdrafting, that is drawing out more than we're putting back. We need at least 2 years of good rainfall to replenish the aquifers. We're running tighter and tighter into this water scarcity problem.
What options do we have?
We bring water in on good water years and we allow that water to penetrate into the ground. And then on bad years, like last year, we're able to pump it out. We're depleting a tremendous amount of groundwater. Drought's not over. We figure it'll take 3 above average year of snowfall and rain to start replenishing the groundwater.
Groundwater is a really important source of water in California. It provides about 40% of our water, sometimes more in a drought year when surface water is limited. The groundwater reserves are what a lot of folks rely on to water their crops and to provide their communities with water.
Our groundwater supply is meant to be replenished every year.
We're going to go deeper and deeper. You're going to see more land taken out.
It's like living on a savings account. How long could you live off your savings account if you didn't put anything in the bank?
We haven't had water in our ponds for close to 2 years now. When we start, we'll go down a foot a day. So you can imagine that the water table in our area is 200 feet deep. It takes 200 days to get back to where the water is, to start building back up.
Have the cleaner, cheaper fuel is a domestic fuel. It's natural gas because it's half the price of diesel and 30% cleaner. It's cleaner, it's cheaper, and it's ours. It's domestic, and we will get off OPEC oil.
Extracting natural gas from the earth requires a process known as hydraulic fracturing or fracking.
On that issue of water-constrained West, where drought is upon us in California, etc., we use about 5 million gallons of water per well. It seems like a pretty good idea to try to conserve as much water as we can.
Exactly, and so many of our fracking operations are in stressed environments. A stressed environment is one that already has 80% of the water being used for other uses, so it makes for competition. So fracking is competing in these various areas with other users, and many of these areas, like the gray ones, are arid to start with. We also know that overall fracking use is low. As a percentile, here's Colorado, and it shows that hydraulic fracturing is 0.08% of total use, agriculture being the biggest at 85%.
The amount of water that is actually used in fracking is a couple million gallons. It's significant, but if you look at it relative to watering a golf course or something like that, there's a whole lot of other uses that are a lot greater. But you're in a state that is in a drought, the usage of that water is an issue.
And we see this in Texas. Local stress can be very high. We have Karnes, for example, 213% proportion of fracturing used to domestic. We have in Erie County, small population of course, but they're at almost 3,000%. As you may know, the Hoover Dam has been dropping down. This is just in 1 year. Now, here's what it looks like in June 16, 2013, and this is just 1 year later. So what we have here is a 13-month drop, and of course it's from a low level already. So there's clearly troubles with the Colorado watershed, and groundwater is an issue in the West, but also in the Midwest. So this can create local stresses, and why is this important? Well, there's people live there, and they get concerned. Populations are growing in the arid regions. All these circled areas are major growth areas for population in the very same areas. Fracking is a boom, but so is the weather in Florida, the weather in California. People are migrating to nice places.
That's right.
Okay, now, this is the point. If you have a growing population and stressed aquifers, fracking operators are under what I call a perfect storm.
But in Kern County, California, an oil industry pilot project is in place that just might point a way to a solution.
We have pistachios here, if you see in the back. Around us is oranges and blueberries and grapes and pomegranates. And on a pistachio crop, you use about 3 acre-feet, and that's kind of rule of thumb on most crops. An acre-foot is 1 foot of water for an acre. So an average family of 4 will use an acre-foot of water a year. 160 acres. On a normal year, if we have the water, it's 480 acre-feet. We're depleting a tremendous amount in this valley. Our district here, they allowed us less than an acre-feet of water per acre for the year, which on good years you get two plus. Because of that, we had to supplement it with our deep well, which costs us a lot of money.
Chevron's doing some work in Kern County in California where they have a lot of produced water coming out. In many cases, 30, 40, 50% of the fluid that comes out of an oil well is water. People don't realize that. And what they're looking for is to take a lot of this produced water, as we call it, and making sure that it's properly cleaned and then used on the surface for agricultural purposes.
This produced water is the water that is in the reservoir down deep in the earth, say 10,000 feet, where there's oil and water all mixed together. It's got nothing to do with fracking. When you remove the oil from the well, you're actually getting up a mixture of water and oil or gas. And that water is called produced water, produced as in it's being produced with the oil. On an average in the United States, there is about 8 barrels of water that comes out of the ground with every barrel of oil. That's a lot of water. You look at how many barrels of oil or gas that we get out of the ground and multiply that times 5 or 8, and it's a potential source of water for other beneficial uses.
Produced water is a really good idea because this is essentially water that we'd written off. It actually is being reused and can be considered in some ways new water.
Chevron built the facilities to filter the water good enough that we could put it on our crops. And they bring in approximately 70 acre-feet of water a day from their oil field. It goes down to a canal system, and then from there they have their booster pumps that pumps it into these pipelines. So then we get it here, we turn it on here, and then we flow into the reservoir. You'll hear it.
Chevron's experiment in recovering produced water has been a lifesaver for some Kern County farmers.
We're able to buy that water real cheaply in the winter, and it's been a win-win for us and for them too.
The only problem is, this process takes time, and it only works with certain kinds of oil.
The reality is that in Chevron's case, the produced water that's coming out of the well with the oil is essentially fresh water, although it's got contaminants in it that are like suspended solids and trace oil.
What is needed is a fast, effective way to separate water from every kind of oil.
So what you'll see here is the mat that's been floated to the surface. So this is the gunk, and underneath this is pretty clear.
Up next, a cutting-edge company that just may have the solution that could change the landscape of water treatment for the future.
Sully here, Big Biz Show, and our special Big Biz report. California's great drought, and can the oil industry help? Joining us now, Riggs Eckelberry from Origin Clear. He's the CEO of Origin Clear. They're a publicly traded company. Their stock symbol OOIL, originclear.com, their website. Riggs, we saw you in that first segment speaking to a group of folks, talking to us how bad the problem was, and we also saw a graphic about produced water. That might be the solution, right?
Exactly. So 75 billion gallons of water, we think, is generated by the oil industry because they're a water treatment industry that happens to produce oil. Mm-hmm. And here we are with all this water and, of course, a state that really needs to reclaim every drop.
Yes, please.
So there's an opportunity. And that's where it comes down to technology because right now that stuff, you know, when it comes out of the ground, it's gunky.
Yeah.
It's got oil, you know, crude. That's the stuff that kills petrels in the Alaskan,
right.
you know.
And you can't just squirt that on your broccoli.
No,
That would be a mistake.
that would be a mistake.
Right.
Exactly.
But yeah, but as we're seeing in some of this footage here, there is a solution. I mean, there is a way to mitigate a lot of this. I'm not saying it's a panacea, but this produced water thing is a head scratcher because if we can use that to the greater good, we're in great shape.
Well, already Chevron is doing a showcase of how it's done. But like everybody else in the oil industry, they're dealing with this gunky stuff that clogs up all that filtration that they have.
Right.
And our solution actually removes that gunk and makes the job so much easier.
So it's a pre-solution, right? It's a pre-treatment prior to them getting there, correct?
We do the heavy lifting to get the stuff out, and now all those cork filters and activated charcoal and so forth.
They don't get as clogged.
Exactly.
So you're like the thing at the beach that hoses off your feet before you get sand in your car.
That's exactly
you
right.
Treat your feet first.
And
Now
that's
you get in the car
and that's
take a
on the
shower.
Origin Clear website. More of California's great drought. Can the oil industry help? Coming up here in just a second.
So a little bit about our small water district here in Southern California. We go from Ventura County in the north down here to San Diego County, serving 19 million people in our service area. That's 1 in 17 people in the United States live in this little strip of land about 150 miles long and about 60 miles wide. And the story of Southern California is bringing water in from faraway places. This year we're having a drought, of course, in Northern California. That means we've taken more water from the Colorado River this year. But as a result, Lake Mead has dropped, and there's risk to the other states that rely on Colorado River water because of the drought in Northern California.
I work for the Colorado River Water Conservation District. We're a quasi-governmental organization formed 77 years ago on the notion that here in the arid West, there's a huge competition for water. And our founding is basically on the push-pull of water and of Colorado's obligation to deliver water to the down basin states. In this system of scarcity in the West, we've developed a water rights system, first in time, first in right, and those who have the most senior rights get the most water.
The entire Colorado watershed is operating according to antiquated rules. They're locked up, they can only get so much water, and it's running out. The watersheds are reducing.
Now there's a wild card in that, and that's produced water that's coming out of the energy industry. So there are no water rights associated with that. It's kind of a found resource.
We had wasted and thrown away a lot of this produced water by just injecting it back down in the reservoir. Why not take it and use it on the surface in agriculture?
Water quantity has forever been a huge issue, and now more than ever, water quality is linked to the quantity issue. So it's very interesting to see that a technology is emerging to deal with water, and it can be treated and reintroduced back into the environment in a good way.
This is a huge milestone. For us, this is the fruition of a couple years of development of our frac flowback and produced water cleanup system. It took a while for us to get it beyond the lab stage. In fact, today is the world premiere of our first demonstration scale system.
There's that lovely smell of oil. It's like, so again, this is the mat that's come to the top, and there's the micro bubbles that are bubbling it and pushing it to the top.
The way that we have it set up here in Delta, as you can see over here, are the incoming feed tanks. The water flows from those tanks into our feed lines, into the pump, to our system.
Oh my goodness. You wouldn't believe the drastic difference. It's night and day. It's from some of the most toxic sludge-looking stuff that you've ever seen to almost drink quality.
This technology has the potential to solve a major problem dealing with the issues associated with oil and gas exploration and production.
But what is this technology and how does it work? In 2007, two brothers, Riggs and Nick Eckelberry, founded a company first known as Origin Oil, now Origin Clear, to develop inventions that Nick had been working on in the field of algae.
And it came together around the idea of algae, industrializing the production of algae, and our first patent that we filed, called quantum fracturing, was all about taking CO2 from the atmosphere and making microbubbles so that the algae could feed on it. Now, from that, we started making other inventions. The amazing thing that happened, Nicholas, was in 2009, late 2008, right there in that lab, he's got this tub, and the algae is all separated. There's oil on the top, there's algae in the bottom, and I said, what are you doing? He goes, I have no idea.
What I did is I put some electrodes in water because I was working with electricity and water, and then went to lunch, came back, and it was separated. I went, what happened over lunch? It was just a low voltage stimulation, and it just separated the algae and the water.
From Nick's work with electricity and water came the development of the algae harvester, which revolutionized the algae industry by making it possible to extract and concentrate algae in one unit. The process was named electro-water separation, or EWS for short.
In the single-step extractor tubes, we get this collection of the algae into clumps. The flotation system is the second part of this, and it ensures that these clumpy algae all get bubbled up to the surface. And then clean water coming out the other side.
We specialize in advanced water treatment solutions. And so we do water, wastewater, reservoir engineering, but recently we've also been involved in oil and gas, polluted water treatment.
We have a working relationship with PACE that's been incredibly productive. As an engineering firm, they're very efficient, they're fast-moving, and in the process, we felt that we might be able to help them.
We've been working with them on other projects in the algae industry, and they're always coming up with bigger and better systems. And so when they came to us and said, hey, we think we've got something better for you, better than what you're looking at for your oil and gas industry project, we thought, hey, let's take a look at it. And so we actually volunteered to give them some of the water that we were working on.
And so they sent us over these 5-gallon drums of this nasty stuff. We ran it through our regular algae harvester, got 98% extraction of the organics right away, first shot.
At the end of it, we were just very, very impressed by the results that it was able to attain.
I was actually surprised at how good their separation efficiency was. Roughly speaking, I would say like 3 times better than our previous trial.
Now that Origin Clear had perfected its electro-water separation technology, it was time to take the show on the road.
We currently are in an area just south of San Antonio, Texas called the Eagle Ford area. It's a major area where they're doing hydraulic fracturing.
This is the oil boom area right now of Texas. We're surrounded by oil people and oil operations.
Well, here we are in Delta, Colorado at a site called Industrial Systems, Inc. This is a team who wanted to be among the very first people to adopt electro-water separation.
Trinidad and Tobago is an oil and gas economy. Petroleum products and oil and gas provide about 40% of our gross domestic product. So we have a very real interest in the technology.
The frackers and the oil producers themselves are bringing up water from deep inside, way underground. And that water, if it's cleaned, is a found source of water. And that's actually a way that the oil industry could help these economies, which right now are literally drying up.
Our company provides services to the oil and gas industry. Since we build a lot of these frac water facilities for oil companies, we kind of understand what some of the expenses are that they have with that, and then the after frac situation out there in the field in terms of how much of this contaminated water has to be hauled off and dealt with. It's just really amazing how they can take that nasty stuff that we call flowback water and turn it into something that's as clear as that in that jar in a short amount of time.
I've toured the country and been in a lot of the oil and gas areas. The quantities of water are depleting. All the streams and lakes where they're taking a beating on this high use of water. To be able to reclean that water instead of using fresh water every time to frack a well is a huge success. With this system, we can take that water all the way back to drinking water for the farmer, rancher, or whatever.
So we see the technology as being a really comprehensive solution that could treat produced water from the wells to a standard that will be acceptable by the environmental legislation in Trinidad and Tobago.
This has been very impressive to see a working model where you see the throughput, you see just the quality of the water going in versus the quality of the water going out, and the fact that they're applying a different approach on some technologies that haven't been done in the oil field.
Right now, the focus is on water cleanup. This is an industry that is exploding into the consciousness both of the consumer media and the industry media, and they see it appearing with this next generation technology and having a solution which is really, really needed.
This technology has the potential to solve a major problem dealing with the issues associated with oil and gas exploration and production.
Meanwhile, in California, Origin Clear's technology is reaping unexpected rewards from traditional oil operations.
We're here in Southern California, water's scarce, agriculture is everywhere around us, and water is a big issue. Currently, pretty much everybody is using fresh water for irrigation. With our one piece of equipment, we can take the produced water and turn it into water that could be used for agriculture and irrigation uses.
Water is essential, and it's not an inexhaustible commodity that we have to take care of it.
We're looking forward to a growth industry that affects not only the United States, but affects North America, South America, the Middle East, and when you think about it, it has the potential to affect the entire world.
I think about what we're doing here in western Colorado now and the use of water. Much of the controversy surrounded about the use of water, and if we can clean it up, you know what, I have to live here also. And drink the water, and my kids do.
It wouldn't hurt for us all to have a little better green footprint with it.
With Origin Clear technology, oil producers can now have a way to effectively treat their wastewater. And California has a potentially new source of water.